And that's what a computer is to me. What a computer is to me is it's the most remarkable tool that we've ever come up with. And it's the equivalent of a bicycle for our minds.
This is my iPad. It's a pretty cool device and it's completely changed the way I learn in school. In this video, I'll talk about how it does just that, and as back to school season approaches, whether or not you should get an iPad yourself to benefit your own learning. Just to be clear, this is a discussion video about the topic of iPads for students in general, and whether or not buying one is the right decision, not a review. For those curious though, this is the iPad 9th generation, paired with the Apple Pencil and the Apple Smart Keyboard. All right, let's begin with the benefits of the iPad. So let's just get straight to the point. Arguably the biggest advantage of the iPad is the ability to take notes. I personally use GoodNotes 5, but GoodNotes 6 is out with new AI features, and there's other apps like Notability and OneNote that are also great. Apple Notes is also good, but I find it a little limiting. Being able to have essentially unlimited paper, unlimited notebooks, unlimited stationery, it's crazy. You'll never have to buy another notebook or another piece of stationery ever, although you might want to keep some physical stationery on you just in case. I also never have to worry about damaging or losing notes again, and sharing notes with friends, if you have any, is as easy as sending a screenshot or a PDF. I can access my notes from multiple devices through the cloud, and of course, I can search through my own notes using the search bar function. This is a life-saving feature that saved me so much time compared to manually looking through my notes. The iPad also makes it so much easier to access different resources. I'd say it's the perfect device for accessing things like lesson slides and textbooks. Gone are the days of printing out lesson slides to annotate on them. I can now simply import the slideshow into GoodNotes and annotate and highlight them to my heart's content. I can also find PDF versions of textbooks, and sometimes my teachers provide digital versions of our textbooks, so I can just let the physical one rot in my locker while I use the digital one on the iPad. Need to draw or mark something up? You can scribble and doodle anywhere you want on a digital textbook without any guilt, unlike on a physical textbook where if you so much as mark the textbook, the teacher will hunt you down and end your bloodline. It's possible to completely replace your notebooks, your binders, your textbooks, your scrap paper, and carry just the iPad. And your pencil case, well, it's essentially replaced by the Apple Pencil. I no longer have to carry around pens, pencils, and highlighters for my note-taking purposes. I still keep some physical stationery in my backpack's front pocket, so in case I do need them, I have access to them, but I generally can spend the entire school day with just the pencil. If your teacher wants something handed in on paper though, it's important to have physical stationery like a real pencil. But yeah, the entire bulk of a pencil case can now be replaced by this tiny white stick. See? Size doesn't matter. It's what's on the inside that counts. The iPad and Apple Pencil is more than just a replacement for traditional tools such as pencils, highlighters, notebooks, and textbooks. It also gives you a whole new tool belt at your disposal. If you have a newer Mac computer, you can use the iPad as a second display for extra real estate on the go. You can mark up a document, draw on it on the iPad, and then you can just wirelessly airdrop it to your Mac. iPads also have cameras, which means you can take photos of basically anything and annotate it right on the iPad. I've done this a couple times before and it's pretty useful. I can then send that new drawing right to whoever I need to send it to. This is something that can only really be done on the iPad. If you have online school, you can complete and submit worksheets digitally without having to print and scan them. You can use the iPad as an agenda, a planner, a calendar. It truly is the all-in-one productivity machine. Just about the only thing it can't do is fill the void your ex left in your heart. Before we get to the drawbacks of using an iPad for school, I'd like to give a brief word from our sponsor. Just kidding, this channel is big enough to be sponsored just yet. But I would like to mention a project that I happen to be a part of that you students will be able to benefit from. Study Skillz is a non-profit organization aimed to help students find effective and personalized ways to study. Basically, it's a website with a bunch of study advice articles built by a community of students such as yourself. Yes, you can write an article for us, sharing your advice and add to our growing collection, and depending on the location you can also earn volunteer hours. It's a win-win. If you don't want to write for us, that's okay. Maybe you'll find something that'll help you in the coming school year on our website. Check it out with the link in the description below. I actually used this German article right here to help me the night before my German test. I do not recommend cramming, by the way. Also consider following us on Instagram and TikTok for random memes and bite-sized study advice. Links also in the description. Alright, back to the video! Of course, the iPad isn't perfect at all. There's many downsides to using an iPad as a substitute to traditional school materials. First one is going to be the price. A tablet is going to be expensive, and the iPad is no exception. Of course, the tablet itself is going to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, but there's also loads of hidden expenses that add up. For example, accessories. You'll likely be buying a case for the iPad and maybe a keyboard. iPad keyboards are incredibly expensive, especially the first-party Apple ones. There's also the pencil. If you're going to buy just an iPad and not a pencil, you can't do any of the pencil things, you can't take notes, you can't annotate, you can't do anything. You essentially just have a big phone. And I mean, bigger is always better, but do you really need a bigger version of something you already have? Does it have to be just bigger? Does it? But the Apple Pencil costs money. The first gen that works with the 9th and 10th gens of the iPad, like this one, costs 99 USD or 129 Canadian, and the Pencil 2 that works with all the other iPads costs 129 USD or 169 Canadian. Holy shit! Samsung at least has the decency to give you the stylus with your tablet. Thankfully, you can buy alternatives for around 40 bucks. They offer a similar writing experience for the most part, and honestly, it'll do for most students. One last hidden cost is the cost of software. GoodNotes 6 is 30 American dollars or $10 a year, and other apps also have subscription payments. Thankfully, most apps, including GoodNotes, have free versions, and there are completely free apps out there too. Call a Note and OneNote are both solid apps, as well as Apple's own Notes app. Choosing an iPad is also going to be a factor. Do you want the budget iPad, which honestly, in my opinion, fulfills everything a student could possibly need? The iPad Air, the Pro, what about the Mini? Apple's lineup is weird, but that's for another video. If you're thinking about using the iPad as a computer replacement, yeah, you could pull it off, but it's not ideal. Remember, Apple purposely designed the iPad software to be powerful, but not so powerful that you won't want to buy a Mac. Their ultimate goal is to sell you both. The iPad Stage Manager is cool, but it's only available on higher-end iPads, and it still doesn't compare to true desktop multitasking. On more basic iPads, only very simple preset multitasking configurations are available. It's fine for a tablet, and honestly, if you just pair it up with a keyboard and a mouse, it would be enough to do most student tasks such as Google Docs, watching lessons, and taking notes. If I was a student on a really tight budget and I just needed a computer to get me through the semester, I'd just buy a base model iPad for most of my computing tasks and borrow a computer from a school or library for those times when I actually do need to do computer stuff. Some people spend thousands of dollars on the iPad Pro and its accessories for that full iPad as a computer experience, but in my opinion, I'd say it's a better choice to just buy a mid-tier laptop and the base model iPad and its accessories, since it'll cost you around the same, oftentimes even cheaper if you look for good deals, and instead of just an iPad Pro, you'll be getting a full computer laptop thing and also an iPad that you can take notes and do iPad things on, and that, in my opinion, provides more value than just an iPad Pro. If you're doing activities in class that might involve cut and paste or folding paper or anything that might require physical manipulation of a piece of paper, the iPad is out of the game. The thing is, paper is cheap and disposable. You can use it to make stuff, and if you mess up, it's fine. Toss it out. It's a single sheet of paper. In this regard, the iPad cannot and will not ever be able to replace paper. If a friend asks to borrow a sheet of paper, guess what you can't do? Give them a piece of paper. See if they're still going to be your friend after that. It's not that serious, honestly. All of this can be remedied by carrying some paper with you. What I do is I have most of my stuff stored on my iPad, and then this duotang with some lined paper and other irreplaceable paper documents. The iPad and the duotang together still weigh less and are smaller than if I had a bunch of binders and textbooks in my backpack. I can handle my personal stuff on the iPad, but I still have access to paper if need be. Lastly, this thing is a full-on electronic device. You'll have to make sure that teachers allow you to use this thing in their classes. What I do is I just ask them nicely in the beginning of the semester, and most of the time they understand that you'll be using it as a tool for learning. Which brings us to distractions. Once your teachers give you permission to use this thing, it's your responsibility to do just that. Use it as a tool for learning. Don't have Netflix or anything playing in the side panel. I'm guilty of watching stuff on the side while taking notes. Now I just put the iPad on airplane mode to prevent me from distracting myself. But yeah, use the iPad responsibly, let it boost your learning, not bring it down, and don't betray your teacher's trust. And since it's an electronic device, it's going to need charging. Pencil and paper, infinite battery life. This thing needs charging basically every day, and the pencil, well, I just charge when needed. To be fair, the pencil can charge quite quickly, giving 30 minutes of use with just 15 seconds of being plugged in. It's basically the equivalent of sharpening an actual pencil. And since it's an electronic device, it's going to be susceptible to malfunctions and glitches. My iPad 9th gen has been mostly reliable, but there have been times when my previous 8th gen decided to stop working for a good minute. Imagine if that was while I was scrambling to take notes. I don't think I've ever had any severe issues with the iPad though, but there are severe cases of people's iPads randomly dying out of the blue. When your entire academic career lives on this thing, that's just a little concerning, so I back up my iPad to iCloud, which gives me peace of mind, and I only pay 4 Canadian loonies per month. Well, that's just another hidden cost. Lastly, the iPad can feel claustrophobic to use at times. This can be somewhat remedied by choosing a bigger iPad, but only to a certain extent. Let me explain. Normally with paper you'd be able to sprawl out all your sheets on your desk, right? If you keep all these on your iPad, if you want them all open at once, you're going to need to do split screen, and that can get cramped really quickly. However, this is only a problem if you're going to keep absolutely everything, all your documents, on your iPad. If you'll just be using it as a notebook, you'll be fine, but also the main reason for buying an iPad is so you can keep everything on it, not solely as a notebook replacement. I use my iPad to store literally everything, and it can feel cramped at times when I have all of these different documents open. Steve Jobs once said that the computer is a bicycle for our minds. Decades later, in the context of the iPad, I wholeheartedly agree. However, like a bicycle, you're still gonna have to pedal to get anywhere. You're still gonna have to put in effort. The iPad is just there to make your life a little easier, kind of like how a bike saves you the time and effort of having to walk. But let's be honest, you don't need an iPad for school. There's nothing wrong with using pen and paper. In fact, the iPad might actually hurt your education in the long term if you let it become a distraction rather than a tool. That being said, if you buy an iPad with intentions of using its features to its full advantage, rather than just to look cool and have an extra toy, the iPad can change your academic workflow for the better. It all comes down to your intentions with the device and whether or not you have the self-control to not let it be a distraction in school. It's a tool, not a pretty accessory. Hopefully this video helped you with your decision, and I wish you the best of luck in the coming school year. Okay, bye! Hi, Pearl. 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 What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Where are you going? Hello? How close? What mode is this on at the moment? Okay, pretty sure it's omnidirectional, okay.
Thank you for 147 subs.
Boo, 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 boo. No, it's the... It's a Miguel O'Hara theme, yeah. For those curious though, this is an iPad. Oh.